Okay, one last time. One last time. If this doesn't work, I will come back tomorrow. I apologize this, please. Ah, probably better. Thank you. Ah, I am so sorry for the troubles. For the first 30 minutes or so, for the first tutorials, I had some audio issues and I probably fixed it this time. I will have to work on that again, but I think it is better now, so I will start live streaming right now. Just a second, okay. So it should be okay. Everything should be okay here. Yep, it's okay. Okay. It's it is quite shocking to see that the computer software says that my computer is too old to do this. It is quite shocking, but I think it's officially time for me to. I don't want to rebuy those things. I think I can try to upgrade it. Let's see. So this is the Sashiko Live Streaming where I talk about Sashiko while doing Sashiko stitching. And again, I apologize for the audio setting. I think this is better now. This is the third trial. It is not, after all, the microphone. It is the computer. I just got the new microphone last year, so this is purely my computer now. I will change the description again after I finish this live streaming. And let's see. The thing is that you never try to upgrade or install something new right before the live streaming. That's something I shouldn't have done that. I changed everything and it took forever to fix it. I apologize for that. Okay, so let's start stitching once again. I really don't know what happened though. One thing for sure is that the computer says like this this microphone is not a microphone. This audio setting is not supported, or you should update it. Live streaming is important, so this is something I have to put it on my budget 2023. Boo. Much better. Thank you, Julie. Yep, was pretty bad. I rewatched everything before I deleted. It was pretty bad, so it is much better. I appreciate it. This is another thing that I don't have anybody else to handle those cases. I am doing everything by myself, as you know. So when those issues happens, I have to fix it by learning things. And I mean, I can do it. I am doing one by one. I think it's not gonna happen again. But one step by one step, one step by one step, same as Sashiko. So whatever the theme I brought today is completely gone. I thought I was gonna talk about the answers in Japanese culture, but let's mumble something and let's try to talk about. Let's see. It's my brain is just too fried to fix this one. Whew, I might not really talk today. Although I fixed my audio, this might be the live streaming where I don't talk much. Unless I receive some questions. My brains are too fried. It's quite shocking. It's quite scary to have those issues right before the live streaming. Let's see what I'm gonna do here. Hi, Lily-san. Thank you so much for coming back, and I'm sorry for the issues. It's probably much better. It's probably much better, which means that the previous one was actually very horrible. I have a question about the amount of extra slack thread that you see on the back. How much? As much as you feel comfortable. Ideally, less is better. You don't want to have too much of those. You don't want to have having too much thread on the fabric left is not a good idea for those I mean, two reasons. One, it is wasting the thread. It is wasting the thread, so you don't want to have too much thread on the fabric left. And the second reason is that means like you're not sorry, the first reason is that you are not using the maximize efficiency of the thread. And second reason is that you have to keep clipping, because having a long thread left on the fabric can be bothering. At the same time, if you see that the thread start splitting toward the end of the stitches, you may want to end it a little bit before that. So I change the thread when I see that thread becoming a little bit less thread. Does it make sense? Like the Sashiko thread has a very unique twist. So whenever it starts losing the twist, I stop stitching, and I might leave a big, long thread slack. It's not ideal. Ideally, I should use shorter thread, but I don't like threading much as well, so I try to use the longest thread I can think of. As the result, I sometimes have those broken thread at the end. So it's not really ideal, but it's the preference as well. At the same time, if you do kasane, that's really it's not that big of a deal as well. So it really depends on the patterns and also the thread you use. And you will cut it off anyway after you put the fabric in the water. You do the mizutoshi, so. Oh, the little loop you leave at corners, you don't clip it. And those are kind of the topic that I mentioned in the online class. It is too difficult to offer one answer here, because that can cause a lot of misunderstanding. So we don't. The simple answer is that you cannot cut it. We cannot cut it if there's no kasane. And there are several wisdom that we use to handle those things. And those are the kind of the few topics that I cover in the online class, or even in-person class is fine. Those are the topics that I cover in that. I just don't want to give the answers. I want to share the stories, and that's probably going to require some practice as well as adding some stories. So yeah, please take the online class or in-person class to get that. If you took that, then please join the live session. as well. But yeah, the thread is quite interesting to have. Like, some people say whatever thread is fine. It is true, whatever thread is fine to make Sashiko stitching, but when we think about Sashiko in the longer term, it can make a lot of difference. And if one is happy about the result today and tomorrow and for a year from now, and if their goal is to just hang it on the wall as the decoration, probably the whatever thread is fine is probably true. Which is the reason I say probably is that I have not done it much. But if just what they care about is the result, it's probably fine. But if the goal is to, well, I don't want to say authentic Sashiko, but when we follow the original purpose of Sashiko, which is to use the fabric in the ordinary life, then it makes a significant difference when we use the specific thread. So whatever is not really fine for that point. I'm so glad that I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with this audio again. I mean, probably have to deal with it again, but not today, tomorrow. It says that I have to upgrade the NVIDIA. I think that's the video card, some sound card. The card is not up to date. So, yay. There was a question that it was kind of a confusion about it too, but there was a question about thread splitting, and I think it's she read some article that Sashiko thread should not split. The answer is Sashiko thread should split. Those thread which does not split can be quite opposite of the Sashiko thread. I mean, it should not really split by just touching it, but it should split at some point. And by splitting it, it's kind of difficult to thread the needle. And once you get used to it, it's not really a big problem, but there are a few tips to make it easy. So try to use the threader first to get used to it. And just don't give up. Don't give up. It's not impossible to do it, or it's not like a lemon. It's not the bad product, or it's not wrong batch. It is supposed to be like, if you try to split it, it should be split. It shouldn't be split by itself without touching it. But if you try to split it, it has to be able to split it. That's the key of the Sashiko thread. One key element of Sashiko thread. So it's not because of the thread. It's many people suffer from threading first. Like, really, it's kind of difficult to thread it. But at the same time, once you get used to that, it's not that big of a deal. And there's nothing wrong with using threader or any other tools to make it easier. So those are the things that I probably will say it's the matter of practice. Which is probably not helpful much, but I think that's what it is. If you realize today, the 30 minutes late after two trial of making an error with audio, you may find that I'm stitching something different today. So I still have the same project, but since I've been doing the live session often this January, and also I have a private workshop tomorrow, not tomorrow, day after tomorrow. So I've been stitching Asanoha a lot, more than usual, not only in the live streaming, but also outside of the live streaming, I'm stitching the Asanoha pattern, and I'm kind of tired of that. I think I don't mind stitching right now, but I figure that this pattern will probably be okay to stitch unless I don't go into details. If I go into the details, I may have to be quiet to stitch, but I think it's gonna be okay. So it's kind of rare opportunity for me to stitch something not Asanoha in front of the camera. I have to stitch Asanoha for this year as well, so it's gonna be another, I don't know how many meters I have completed. It's not, I have not done more than 50 meters because December was not the best time for me last year. I was in New York to do the business for the business trip, and after that I was sick for 2 weeks or so. So I still counting at the same pace of the November, which was about 40 meters or so. So it's just few decades, no, not even few, it's more than half, but I think it's doable for this year. I hope. But at some time, I get tired of those same patterns. By the way, the audio is good, right? I'm mumbling, so when I talk and do the live streaming while stitching, I mumble a lot, so my voice is not really clear as I usually talk to somebody. That's the reason I really cared about today's audio, because it was really muffled. Somebody said somebody said it sounds as if I'm talking into the jar or cup. And if it sounds like that even when I talk to the microphone, when I mumble, it's probably not even too hearable. It's probably too bad to even understand what I'm saying. So I hope that I somewhat fixed it. And the complete fix is to change the computer because that's what the system says. Like, you have to update the audio card. It says that this sound control panel requires better system or something like that. So I'll see what I can do. Microphone is one thing, but the whole computer is another thing. So I'll see what I can do. And until that, this is probably the best quality I can get based on the Google research. So I hope it is better now. Whew, my brains are really, really fried. Oh. Ah. I might have the article. Actually, it has been a long time since I received that question, so I kind of jumped to the conclusion that I do it in the online class, and I do it. I do it in the online class to tell you to share how to deal with those excessive thread. But how is in the class because it requires some explanation, and I have to make sure that everybody are on the same page. But I do actually have an article explaining why. So why is on the website somewhere. I used to have this question pretty much every time I had a live streaming, like why? So on my website, upcyclestitches.com, when you type, like there's a search section, search box, and when you type why loop, I think I have the article explaining why I have a loop, like thread on the stitching side, I believe. It's been like a long time since I received that question. It's interesting. It come and goes. Sound is so good now. Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year too. Lately, I've been struggling with the Amimon part of the Sashiko project. That. It's not an easy pattern. It looks easy, but it's really Shippo is much easier for that. So good luck enjoying. Good luck and enjoy. You can do it. It's the matter of getting the rhythm, the right rhythm. Once you get in the rhythm of like Shippo or Asanoha pattern, that might be a little bit. It's like running on the hill. If you get used to running on the plane, just no hill, then stitching that might be a little bit of, it requires a little bit of power to make the rhythm. The rhythm itself does not require the power, but in order to make that rhythm, to get used to that rhythm, it requires a little bit of power. Power to adjust you. It's like a gear is different, and it's really good to have a different gear. When I say rhythm, it sounds like there's only one rhythm for everybody. It is true that there's only one rhythm for everybody when they feel comfortable, but sometimes it is interesting. It's also important, but it's more like interesting to have several gears that you can shift so you can stitch something different. I don't have that many gears neither, but I do have several of those. So I can stitch Shippo or Hishisegaiha or Asanoha patterns on the live streaming. I mean, I prefer the Asanoha because I don't have to think about it. But when when the pattern requires different gear, different rhythm, I probably won't be able to stitch on the live because I have to talk. If the live streaming is completely silent, I don't really have to do that. But so having a little different rhythm or different gear, it might be helpful for you to feel more easy to do that. My brain is again fried and I'm in a big relief right now. It was pretty shocking to see the computer say like you have to have a better audio card. I mean, I tried to lower every setting, and then now here we are. But I thought I had to really replace the computer right now, today. I enjoy it little by little every day. Yeah, that's a good way. Until you get a rhythm, it's just do it little by little is a good way to. It's tiring because you probably have to change the rhythm. But if you finish one whole pattern, it's probably gonna be much easier to do it second time. As much as I explain like that, I probably won't be able to stitch online. It will probably require me to. I can try, but it's probably not gonna be a good idea. Because I'll be quiet. I'll be kind of. What's the point of doing live streaming if I don't talk much? See, like, even now I'm thinking, that's why Asanoha is much easier to do it. Yeah, I will mention that tomorrow in Japanese as well, but Keiko is gonna be in Tokyo this weekend, and she's gonna go to the flea market as well. The main purpose of her going to the Tokyo is not that she is trying to get a place for the Japan trip exhibition. We will visit a place for us to get together, and she's going there to get a reservation and to have a detailed conversation with the owner. So it is happening. It is happening. In April, in the middle of April, we will be in Japan, and one of the biggest, not attraction, but biggest purpose, biggest event in that tour is to meet Keiko, of course, but to see her work as well. But at the same time, to meet as many Japanese Sashiko friend I have in Japan, in Tokyo. And for that, we don't have to. We would like to have a place to get together. And we've been trying to find a place to do that, or actually the place to do that. And it took a few months to do it, but we finally found one. So, and the Japan trip for 2023, this coming April, is filled. It's very much full, and waiting list is too long, so I don't really recommend you to be on the waiting list because there's not probably going to be a possibility for you to get on. But if you can be on the waiting list expecting that you might receive the email prior to the other mailing list or Instagram, still the Google form is available. So please go to somewhere. I think my website, Upcycle Stitches, has the article about it, about the Japan trip, and please leave the Google form submission so I can make sure to send offering when I decided to do so again. I don't know if I'm gonna do it again. Does it matter if stitches are not tiny as long as they are equal? Does it? It's not me who decide that. It does not have to be equal. It does not have to be small. It happens to be small. It happens to be equal, but it's not me who decide that. In fact, I'm not really worried about those things at all, so my advice is try not to worry about that. It's really, that's kind of the first thing I have to uninstall to those who come to my workshop, either in person or online. They come to the the online class or in-person class expecting that they will get the technique or skill to make the stitches even and also smaller, and they will get it. They will be able to do so at the same time, there's no such a thing as the technique to make it happen. It's not a technique, it's the mindset. If the goal is to make a few perfect stitches, yes, probably that's the case. But that's not the Sashiko we define, so Sashiko is not developed in the Western culture, so it is very, very different from the mindset perspective. In fact, though, there are similar mindset in Western culture, which I am learning little by little, but it's not a really Western, or it might not be Western or Eastern cultural difference that much per se, but it's more like contemporary Western versus traditional, not traditional, old Eastern mindset. So it's gonna be like philosophical. It tend to be philosophical conversation when I receive those questions. Like, oh, thank you for the question, by the way. Does it matter if stitches are not tiny as long as they're equal? My answer is, does it? What do you think is probably the answer for me. If you think it matters, of course it matters. If you don't think it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. My preference is small and equal, but I almost never try to make it equal or even small. See, that's already philosophical. But when we're on the same page about this philosophy, they can do it. And I really thought, for the first few years, I thought that this would be too difficult to introduce in different language, in English. But thanks to many people who are now like stars, it's not a matter of language, it's not a matter of the culture we grew up, it's the matter of how to approach it. So, and that is what I want them to learn in my workshop or in my class. How to stitch comes really, really later. Not that later though. Sooner than they think, by learning how to stitch slowly and not think about it. God, it's so philosophical, I don't like it. But it is philosophical until they feel it. When they feel it, when the stitcher feels that what I'm talking about, then it becomes practical. It's really difficult to bring someone practical to philosophical without asking them to do it. Anyway, so, but those question happens because some teachers are saying that stitches has to be equal or small, probably, and that's very sad. Like, I keep making joke about this, but many people say that, well, not many people, the discussion is like, what is the right size of Sashiko stitches? It has to be rice grain size. Like, really? Rice grain size? What kind of rice are we talking about? Actually, there are few photos from Japanese Sashiko artisans or rising artisans who actually decided to take a photo of rice and stitches comparison. And they're from different prefectures, so they have their own rice, right? So they in Japan, even within Japan, we have tons of kinds of rice. So it was quite fun to see the result, and none of them were rice grain size. I probably should do it too. I have a rice grain downstairs, so not downstairs, in my fridge. So yeah, This is gonna be the year of 2013. One next month. So I usually don't do more than 5 or 6 in-person workshop over the year. I try to limit to 6 as maximum, especially after the COVID. And as of now, we have 3 confirmed, one waiting to be, well, it's kind of listed already, but one waiting to have the contract exchange. So if you can find those opportunities, please try to join that. Next month I'll be in Atlanta, and that workshop is full, but waiting list is available, so you can probably try that. After that, in the end of the March, I have in the Florida. I believe that there's still few available spot. Then nothing in the summer, and then I'll have something in the October in Upper New York. I forgot the town's name, but I have to drive north from here, so, and I know it's in New York. It's not in Buffalo or Rochester, but around that area. I find the stitch length varies some with the thickness and the flexibility of the fabric too. Does this happen to you? Yes, it's really, it is really, so yes. I don't want to be rude, but it's kind of nonsense to ask what is the best size of the stitches for each project. Because every time we stitch, the ideal length of this ideal size of stitches are different. And of course, as Sharon said, that each fabric has their own ideal Sashiko stitch size. And not only that, even if we are stitching on the same fabric, based on that day, like for example, I have probably smaller stitches than usual because I'm a little bit nervous about that audio setting. So each day you might have a different, see, these kind of things happen. Each day, each time you stitch, there might be a different stitches. So try to not to make what is the best stitches. Just follow your needle. Let the needle decide it. Then you'll probably find it very interesting to have that. As long as you're in the rhythm, that stitches are gonna be the answer, and each fabric has tendency as well. Sorry. And of course, on each project, each project requires different sizes too. And you have to kind of talk to the fabric to decide what is the best one. When you can talk to the fabric, when you can listen to what the fabric wants, the stitches will be very even without even trying. Without trying, yeah. It's quite interesting how this works. I wasn't finding it interesting because it was very ordinary to me. I never thought that was something very unusual, but come to think of that, it can be quite interesting thing to realize that. So, yep, I hope you enjoyed those difference. And sometimes, probably, Sharon, you understand this, but sometimes the stitches, the size of stitches, or even the evenness of stitches will tell you how good or how bad you are. Not like as a human or person, it's more like how good your conditions are, how good your condition, how bad or how good your condition is. So it's not really about the size or result, it's about the rhythm. Well, I keep saying the rhythm like last 5 years, so you might be tired of hearing this. But yeah, it does absolutely have the impact on the days. So Sharon really summarized it well. So some tension due to the fabric and thread, some materialistic reasons, and some is more like the internal tensions. Exactly. That's the exact summary. So outside is some materials, right? Materials, and inside is more like a stitcher, and that outside can be the fabric, pattern, thread, anything can be outside. And since I like to be consistent, I don't like surprises much. Therefore, I very strict myself to use only one specific needle, one specific thread, so that I don't have to worry about the surprise in the conversation. Fabric can be kind of tricky because humidity changes it. Sometimes temperature even change that. So even if it's the same fabric. So I try to fix as many criteria as possible and then try to find the rhythm as well. And hard to find a good rhythm if you're unhappy. It is very difficult, and it's kind of good indicator like when I cannot find a good rhythm, when I cannot get on the rhythm like this, that means like there might be something wrong, even if I'm not realizing it. Like something is going on within myself. That's why it's not catching up. When I'm in a good shape, I usually get on the rhythm like almost immediately, or even like, after a few minutes at most. But there are gonna be those times that I don't find the rhythm even after like stitching for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Those days I probably should stop stitching. The same times I find myself in something is off. Usually in those cases I try to push myself to stitch through, then decide to kind of crash after all. But by communicating like this, we can decide the thread size. I mean, not thread size, the stitches size. And that's what our Sashiko is all about. I have never had someone return a quilt because of the side stitches. I prefer the handmade looks opposed to the machine-made stitch look. Yeah, but sometimes it's really not the result. Sometimes our stitches looks like a machine, and some people really didn't like that. That was it was very interesting, at the same time it's quite disrespectful order. It was a very long time ago, so I didn't even think about those like disrespectfulness. But we made stitches, and then they say that it looks too much like a machine, and they expected the stitches to be uneven. They were not happy about what we did, and that was, of course, we really don't do that. We cannot make uneven stitches on purpose. Well, I can make it uneven stitches on purpose, but it requires more energy. it happens to be even. I don't plan to make it even, but it becomes even. And for that, I don't even have the answer for that question. Like, does it matter? No, I don't know. I hope you are learning Sashiko from the teacher who says it does not matter. Because if it does matter, it's kind of scary. There are something else that they should be teaching. But again, that's the trend. I understand that's the trend, and that's the whole reason I'm speaking up. Unfortunately, that's not happening. My rhythm is better when I am relaxed and I don't think too much about it. Yep. It makes a lot of sense. The more you don't think about it, the better it gets. So if I focus on to make specific size stitches or specific evenness, then I won't be able to find the rhythm. As a result, my stitches will be very, very unlikely that I would like to have. So the more I don't have, like if somebody asks me to make specific lengths of stitches, I probably will mess it up. If their order is to make even stitches with the size I feel comfortable, then I can make it very, very quickly. But if the order is like, let's say that they say like 0.1 inches stitches everywhere, I probably will not take that commission. Well, I don't take any commission right now, but I might charge 3 times more if that's the case. So, and I used to think that this kind of mindset was only for us, but it's really not it. It's really the matter of just me communicating how. So anybody can do it. Anybody can. Some has to go through very uncomfortable phase to almost uninstall something they developed, and of course they can reinstall it after you learn something new. It's not gonna, that skill will not go anywhere else. It can, like they can use both technique, both skills, but it's like a Zen conversation, or I think it's a Zen, but in order to learn something new, you have to empty the cup first. So one student visited the master in the top of the mountain saying that he wants to learn something new, or he wants to learn the core of master's teaching, and he kept asking the questions, many questions, and the master never replied to those questions. Instead, he started pouring the tea to the cup, and the student or pupils appreciate the tea, right? Then the master doesn't stop pouring the tea even if it overflows. And the students say like, well, master, this tea is full. Thank you. I don't have it. That's enough. But the master doesn't stop. Keep filling the tea. And the student stopped the master and then asked why is he doing it. And then master said like, well, you are like this cup. You have too much things in the cup already and you're not ready to have something new. It can be quite true to something I share. That's how different it can be. And that's the reason I keep teaching that last 5 years, I guess. Every time I teach, they say like they didn't know this. It's very uncomfortable when they're happily, surprisingly experiencing something new. I don't think I've met anybody who knew it though. That's another interesting part. Like what I teach is not that significantly difficult. So I sometimes expect that somebody said like, "Oh, I knew everything, so I didn't have to pay for that." I don't have that claim. No, I have not have that. So it's very interesting. Okay, so this is the last thread. I'm sorry that I was late today. I had a little audio issues again, and I just found out that my computer is too old to install this new software, so I just uninstall and reinstall it as I was talking, like installing and uninstalling it. And until I get the new computer, I don't know when I can do that. But when I can do that, I will update it and updated the system. But I think this audio is much better than the beginning of today, and probably the same as the previous one. So next week is gonna be the week of the gathering. Next week, Thursday night after this live streaming, we will move to the Zoom offered by the Pram Studio. Maiko-san is gonna have the English live English gathering. So if you are new to that, please visit their website to register yourself, or please visit. I will update the website, so please get a ticket. It's free. It's free ticket to join that. Please get the ticket to get the link. If you have already registered yourself to Maiko-san's webpage, you should receive the link automatically. And that's next week after this live session, so it's gonna be like 10:30 in Eastern time. Last week I wasn't there because I wasn't feeling good, but I hope that I can be there next week. Kawi Sakura, thank you for asking, Candida. She's doing fine. She seems to be fine. I have to take her to the hospital at some point. She probably had some allergy to something. I don't know what exactly. So my wife and I have been a little busy this week, so I will take her sometimes next week to check her out. But she seems to be fine now. It was pretty scary yesterday. Not yesterday, last week. Ooh. Okay, since the pattern ends here, I will end the stitching here as well. So let's see. I don't know if I'm going to be stitching this pattern next week, but okay. Whew. Another camera is not working right now, so let's forget about it. By the way, the gathering is very enjoyable. Yes, thank you for coming. That I believe that it's a very good gathering. Like for the purpose, like Maiko-san has a very specific purpose for the gathering, to share the sort of communication is the key for that, and she really has a very specific idea for that. So please join that. The link is on the description area tomorrow. I haven't probably done it right now, so I will update it tomorrow. And yes, thank you so much for coming to the live streaming, and I will see you next week around this time. And next week we have a live session, not live session, the English gathering as well. Again, I apologize for the first 30 minutes and 3 sessions, not a session, 3 streaming with the audio issues. I think I'm gonna be okay. Like I'm not going to update the system anymore again. That's the whole point. All right, thank you so much, and I hope you have a good night. Bye bye.